The Game Schooler Podcast is a weekly audio show that educates new and experienced gamers about the awesomeness of tabletop gaming. In this week's episode, we'll cover Archeos Society, our game of the week, feature the op in a publisher spotlight for the School of Gaming, and wrap it up by revealing our high five pick up and deliver games. Welcome to the Game Schooler Podcast. I'm your host, Doug Kotecki, along with my co-host, Dr. Michael McCabe. How's it going, Doctor?
What's happening, Doug? You can call me Michael. We're friends.
Fine. What's happening,
how you
Michael?
Doing today, man?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm excited. I've got a little bit of follow-up, a little bit of what's awesome. Any follow-up for you?
Yeah, but my follow-up leads into what's awesome, so I don't want to just talk at you for 7 minutes. I'd love to hear your follow-up. What do you have to follow up on in the follow-up segment?
One is a little bit of a housekeeping. So on our YouTube, we're putting out more reviews and parts of the podcast out there in video form. If you are a fan of the overview videos, the smaller 2-minute clips that we've had come out of games, and I've heard from a lot of people that it helps them just see it on the table, see how it kind of works, and they get a better understanding of it than, of course, just listening to a podcast. But those videos, or the same type of video, is going to be in the review videos that come out. So our podcast will come out on Friday. We don't have an exact schedule yet for when those other videos are going to come out for the spotlight and for the game of the week. However, if you want to see those overview videos, they are going to be at the beginning of the review videos and incorporated in there. So they are still happening. They're just kind of in a different format. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
All right. I also want to applaud one of our Discord members, Earl Hayes, Elrays 84. I'm not sure exactly how you say that, but he picked up on my Monty Python reference in the Enchanted Plume Spotlight. I would have normally done a horrible British accent to really sell that and put it over the top, but the way that I pronounce names, I thought that probably wasn't in good taste.
Good decision, Doug.
So that's my follow-up. How about you?
Yeah, last week I mentioned that I was on break with my family, and we record midweek, and the playing of good games, Doug, it continued. And I kind of have a 3-part follow-up here, so just stick with me on this tangent, which will be very clear in my mind at least. Went to Noble Night, our friendly local game store that, boy, I wish it were just 20 minutes closer. I'd be there every day of the week. And so probably a good thing it's not 20 minutes closer. And played Blood on the Clock Tower. So got outside my comfort zone. It's a social deduction game. I went in cold, Douglas. I mean, didn't know the rules, and played 2 games in an hour. Was absolute fool in the first game and almost ruined it for the other 10 people. But the storyteller helped me through it. And then played a second game. So that was fun to have that experience. And it's one that I've always dismissed, but I saw people having such a good time at a convention. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try it. I'll just go and see what happens. And then very shortly, so that was good. It was a good game. Want to play it again. Look forward to it. And there's a lot there. Not super on brand for our show. It's certainly at least rated PG-13. But it's like a mafia or werewolf with special powers.
Okay.
That's how it was explained to me, and that's how I will explain it back to you and our listeners. And then, right around that time as well, I got to play another game that had been on my list, and that's Cthulhu Death May Die. It was, Doug, it's kind of a compilation of several games that we've played. It's a cooperative, so it has some of that Mansions of Madness feel, but there's not an app. Similar, Rob Davio is one of the designers, so it has a Return to Dark Tower feel as well, just as you're going through your flow and your process. And I played it with my oldest. She was awesome, just spending an hour playing a game. But as soon as we were boxing it up, we got into a conversation about Dice Tower. Or Dice Throne. Sorry, got too many dices and too many names there. And Josie said, we got to play that again. We got to get that back to the table. And 4 or 5 days went by, and it was kind of gnawing at me. And then over the weekend, everybody's doing stuff around the house, and I'm kind of thinking, well, what's new in the world of Dice Throne? What do I need to do to get this back to the table? And Doug, I went down a rabbit hole. And I did something I haven't done in a while.
I was part of the receiving end of that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I waited as long as I could. I waited 3 days. I was like, I'll get to the show. And then the day before the show, I
blowing up my phone.
Yeah, I did. I did that. But I made an impulsive purchase, Doug. I haven't done it in a while.
Okay.
So I'll disclose it to you here in a moment. But there's the reason for it. I want to play Dice Throne more. I want to get these big, beautiful boxes that are right behind my shoulder here and play. And so I signed up for an organized play event, coming right off of an adventure to Noble Night, my friendly local game store. I was like, I'm going to sign up for an organized play, and I'm going to go play Dice Throne against other people. So I signed up to go to Titan Games in Springfield, Illinois. 3 hours, 34 minutes, 246 miles away.
Okay, I thought that was
the impulsive purchase is not the gasoline and the tolls that I'm going to have to pay to get there.
Yeah.
As soon as I signed up and I committed, I was like, I'm going to go down. I'll have to get up pretty early on a Sunday to make it there. Needed a T-shirt. Can't just walk in being like, this guy's never played Dice Throne. So after 3 years of talking about it, I went out and I invested in a Shadow Thief T-shirt. So,
okay.
That's my impulse buy. Did have a nice little 15% off coupon, if I can flex that from the folks at Roxley, because it was my first purchase from their store. So all that to say, to me, that's what's awesome. Just being able to explore all the different branches of the hobby, and in 1 week go from, I got a game off of my shelf that I really wanted to play with my oldest kid. And I also, took a risk, got out of my comfort zone, went and played a social deduction game.
Yeah.
And then that brought me to Dice Throne Organized Play. Signed up. Within 2 weeks from now, I'll be ranked. I might be ranked last in the world, but I'll have a ranking.
When you texted me that, I had no idea that you had booked that in Springfield, Illinois. I thought you were just sending me that because we're friends with the folks over at Titan Games. So I thought you were sending that to me to say, hey, look, they've got this going on. I assumed if you were booking one, you were going somewhere closer. But I'm happy for you. It's going to be quite the journey.
I now know that you read my emails closer than my text messages, because that screenshot that I text you clearly said registered.
Well, I don't blow them up. I don't CSI those things.
I did. Okay, that's also good to know. Yeah, so they've still got room at the table. Had to call another friend to find out what a Swiss tournament is. Like, break it down for me. What am I walking into here? So if you want, I figure 6:45 a.m. I won't give the exact date here, but it's coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
probably get a nice little promo out of it.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
But that's what's awesome. There's just so many different pathways and branches and cool things in the hobby. And, I did invest $19 and some change to get a T-shirt, a sweet T-shirt, Shadow Thief.
Finally happened.
Talking about it has now
full circle. I think we can probably end the podcast. When we
get Roxley on the show, I'll be able to flex that tee, and it won't be like crispy, brand new, black, clean. It'll be broken in and worn a few times. Be like, look,
and we'll have to be careful because Dice Throne is actually its own separate company now. They're no longer a part of Roxley.
Yeah, but they're still all the same. They cannot like each other.
Well, I'm sure they're still friends. Well, that's exciting, Michael. I'm happy for you and excited to hear about your journeys with Dice Throne. That'll be cool.
Yeah, but you're not going to get a T-shirt, and if I show up at between 5:45 a.m. and 6:05 a.m. on a Sunday morning, you won't go with me. You're not willing to confirm.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Good.
I
I'll
don't
take
know.
that.
I don't know if I know enough about. I don't feel like I could be competitive in Dice Throne. I feel like I'm just going to get rolled,
smoked. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, what's awesome for me is basically affordable games, which there's so much talk about in the hobby of tariffs and things like that and costs of games going up. And I got Three Ring Circus from DeVere for $20 with free shipping on sale. And
good pull, Doug.
You know, you think, and I know Hachette.
I didn't even know you like that game.
Hachette is has a sale going on right now. We're right before the Easter season, so there's going to be a whole bunch of other stuff going on sale. And then I know Andrew from the Op will talk about this later in the episode, I'm assuming. But just the amount of small card games and things that are affordable, games like Now and Flip 7, that provide hours and hours of fun and entertainment, is pretty awesome that that's out there. And for as much as people are all caught up on price and deluxe editions, there are a lot of great games that you can find at really affordable prices and really small card games that will last a lifetime, and you're going to get hours and hours of family enjoyment out of them. And I think that's pretty cool. I think that those options are out there, and sometimes we ignore that those options are out there. Now, if you're chasing the deluxe and the hotness, yeah, things are going to cost a little bit more. But you wait 3 months or around a holiday, and there's a good chance you can get a lot of good stuff on sale.
Well, and I know in my What's Awesome with Gaming segment, portion, I did not talk about cheap games, but one of those games I played for free. Just went to a game store, sat down, and played for 2 hours and had that experience. And then, Dice Throne is another one that for $20 you can get in and get a character.
Yeah,
you don't have to go all in on the super deluxe battle chest. That's. And the other thing, if you're new to the hobby, sales are happening all the time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to what you were just talking about, you can get a lot of high quality, really good games at a great price. That's awesome. That is awesome.
All right. Our spotlight this week is History Trivia Game. This came out in 2023 from Dyce Games. The designer is Jason Exum. It says 2 to 100 players, Michael.
I've only played it at 4. Just want to be clear on that. Yeah. Or 5. We had 5 at the table.
Yeah, that sounds about right. 30 to 45 minutes. The box says 14 plus. Board Game Geek community says 16 plus. Certainly this is not a subject matter situation. Maybe just a general knowledge thing of you need to have lived years and studied. Know things that have happened.
I thought our 15-year-old was doing a decent job.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be 12, 13, 14 and play this. If you play Trivial Pursuit, you can play this game.
Yeah, so History of the Trivia Game is a battle of knowledge that allows players to dabble in various topics or double down on a single subject. The game begins with one card from each category face down on the main board. The categories include sports and recreation, science and technology, geography and landmarks, art and culture, and people and events. Starting with the youngest player and proceeding clockwise around the table, they select an available question card from the board. The player on their left reads the question from the card corresponding to the letter card on the game board. If the player answers correctly, they place the card in front of them. If they answer incorrectly, they discard the card. In either case, their turn is over. But before play resumes, the active player fills the space on the board with a question from any category. The first player to score a card in each category wins. The trick is that players can also use 3 cards from the same category to count as a wild card of any other category. The wild card rule allows players to theoretically win by correctly answering 13 questions from a single category. So whether you know a little about a lot or a lot about a little, you're sure to remain competitive in the History Trivia Game. This is a trivia game with strategy, and as I was approaching, okay, we have to do an overview of this game. Trivia games are really hit or miss, and some people love them, some people can't stand them. And this one does something that I think is really unique that adds a level of gamesmanship into the game, which is the cards that you are choosing to put on the board. So if I know that Michael is very good in sports category, I might try to avoid that category on the board. Michael might try and load the board up with those cards. At the same time, if I know that Michael is one card away of the arts and culture card away from winning the game, I'm going to try and remove those from the game. So maybe I'm not strong at it, but I'm going to try and answer that question to get it off the board. And I really like that about this game, that there is that element of strategy. But because the categories are so diverse, you can load up on one if you're really knowledgeable in that subject.
Well, in a competitive trivia game, it also encourages the rest of the table to gang up on the person that's in the lead. And that is a mechanic that I enjoy in competitive Euro games, in competitive gamer games. I really like when 3 people are coming at me because I'm slightly in the lead. Bring it, or I like teaming up to try to chase down the person who's in the lead. Doug, I haven't experienced that in a trivia game before.
Yes.
And in other games that we've talked about, whether it's Hive Mind or some of the other games that have the trivia elements in them, there's not that mechanic in the game. And that surprised me and stuck with me after we played it.
Yeah, I think a lot of trivia games suffer from a runaway leader problem. Every group has that person in the group that's like, well, they could probably be on Jeopardy, and they start getting on a roll.
Or they think they could.
Yeah. And they get on a roll, and there's in a lot of trivia games, there's nothing you can do to stop them. And in this one, there is. And to your point, the other players are going to start working together to stop the other that player from running away from it. So it's that's a cool approach as well. I think just being aware of certain things is that playing with teams can make this game move along faster. So if you have 5 players that are sitting around and each person is taking a turn answering question, you probably will go on a little bit of a run of, I don't know that one, or so close, or things like that. So if you do feel like the game is slowing down because of that, playing in teams is, because usually when we were playing the one game with 5 players in it, usually there were 1 or 2 other people at the table that knew the answer to the question. So I think that would be a way to keep the game going faster. And then the letter card, basically you turn over a letter card, and that is on all of the question cards. You are going to be answering, for example, question B on every card. So I don't know how many cards there are in the game, but there are 6 questions on each card, and you will not run out of cards anytime soon. Would you like to do a little bit of trivia here, Michael?
Yeah, bring it. All right. Don't give me sports. Give me a different one because I want to flex a little bit here.
Okay, I'm gonna give you an easy one first. What was King Arthur's legendary sword called?
You're putting me on the spot with an Arthurian tale. Excalibur?
That is correct.
Of course it's correct. Come on, bring it.
Okay, here you go. Which comedian both preceded and followed Conan O'Brien as host of The Tonight Show?
Whoa, preceded and followed. So that's late night. It's that British guy. What's his name? He's kind of crass?
No, that is incorrect.
Can't pull a name. Who is it?
It's Jay Leno.
No way.
Yeah, you don't remember that dust up where they announced that Conan was taking over 3 or 4 years in advance?
I forgot it because I associate Conan with the late. Right?
Oh, sure.
Being on super late.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, give me another one.
Okay. Well, geography and landmarks.
What's another choice?
Arts and culture.
We'll take geography and landmarks.
Okay. All right. Which U.S. Civil War battle was known as the Waterloo of the Confederacy?
Oh, gosh. Is it too late for arts?
Yes. Answer in the Discord if you know that one, or below in the comments. You want arts and culture. How about who sang backup vocals on Carly Simon's You're So Vain?
You're so vain.
Interesting.
You probably thought this song was about you.
We're going to get copyright flag, Michael.
Ronstadt? Linda Ronstadt?
No, it is a male singer known for his lips.
Oh, wow. Don't know.
He is a lead singer of a British band.
You're kidding me. Mick Jagger?
That is correct.
Whoa. See, that's what this game's awesome. And so we played this game with our spouses. And how many of our kids were playing? Was it just one or two? Was it just my oldest? Was your oldest in there too? Or were people milling about in and out?
People
and
were
making
milling
fun of us?
about, yes.
Yeah. I love trivia games. Love them.
Yeah, it's a great one. And this is one that I feel like couples can play and have a good time. Normally, my wife is not a huge fan of trivia games. Certainly, if my brothers and I are on a team together. And
Mick Jagger was backup singer for Carly Simon? What?
Yeah, apparently, that's what the card said. Do your own research. But I think this is a good trivia game that works around a large group of people and different varied backgrounds without having a runaway leader problem. And I think they have one expansion, maybe. There's a deluxe edition that comes with an 80s, 90s packet in there as well, a deck of cards. So
deluxe is okay. Yeah.
Well, that's what it's listed on as Amazon. So that is our spotlight this week, history trivia game. Before we move on, I want to remind everybody to sign up for the gameschooler.com/Discord. Discord server, great community there. We're always getting compliments and kind words about what an awesome community that is, and I couldn't agree more. Watch and subscribe and like on our YouTube channel. We'd appreciate that. If you need a link for that, I believe it's just at GameSchoolerU after YouTube. And or you can check out the website, gameschooler.com, and there are links there as well. Spread the word about the podcast. And if you have any questions, contact us. Email at gameschooler.com. We would love to hear from you. Again, email at gameschooler.com. Now, let's move on to the game of the week.
The game of the week. The game of the week is an in-depth look at a family-friendly game we think you should try if you get the chance. This week's game is Archeos Society. Archeos Society is designed by Paolo Mori with art by John McCambridge and is published by Space Cowboys. The game was released in 2023 and re-implements Ethnos, a 2017 design also by Paolo Mori. Archeos Society is a competitive set collection game that plays in an hour or less for 2 to 6 players, ages 12 plus, with Board Game Geek saying 8 plus. The Game Schooler podcast says 10 plus. And this is a family game. Those are the stats. Archeos Society is Paolo Mori's second game of the week, with Captain Flip being covered back in episode 181. Doug, you want to give us a gameplay overview?
Sure. In Archeos Society, players compete as rival archaeologists using expert guides, botanists, pilots, and more to make discoveries and bring prestige to the Archeos Society. The game plays over several seasons, depending on player count, in which players will accumulate roll cards and play them to advance on the tracks of the 6 archaeological sites. Each player starts each season with a single card, and on their turn, they must perform one of 2 actions. One action is to gain a card. When taking a card, players may either take 1 card from the display or draw 1 card from the deck, but when acquiring cards, players have a hand limit of 10 cards. The other actions players can take on their turn is launching an expedition. An expedition is a set of cards played from your hand. All of the cards in the expedition must match either the same region color or the same roll type. The card you play on the top of the expedition is considered the leader. The leader card determines which archaeological site you may advance on and which unique ability you may activate. Depending on the size of your expedition and the color of your leader card, you may advance your vehicle on the associated site track. You may also activate the leader's unique ability. For example, the pilot allows you to advance the vehicle on any site instead of the leader's color. The physician enables you to keep the remaining cards in your hand up to the size of the expedition that you play. The physician is handy because every card left in your hand after playing an expedition must be returned to the display, making them available for the other players to grab on their turn. Players continue gaining cards and going on expeditions until the season ends. The season ends after drawing the third monkey card from the deck. At the end of each season, players earn prestige points from their advancement on dig sites, the size of their expeditions, and some end-of-season role effects. The game ends after 2 seasons for 2 to 3 players and 3 seasons for 4 to 6 players. The player with the most prestige points wins. Archeos Society is full of variety, so no game is the same. The game includes 12 different role types, even though each game only uses 6 roles. In addition, each archaeological site is double-sided, with an advanced side offering unique abilities and scoring opportunities. So, can you assemble the best crew to uncover the untold treasures awaiting you in dense jungles, flooded cities, and remote islands? Or will you stay back and filter through the Archeos Society fan mail? So that is how you play Archeos Society. What do you like about the gameplay, Michael?
I thought the game was really smooth, and I love that decision of when to play, right? When to really make that choice, knowing that, well, I'm going to have to give these cards back and they'll be available. So I just had a blast exploring that. The other thing that, I know we're in the gameplay, but the art is fantastic. John McCambridge's art really adds life to the game, and I think plays into the theme and the mechanics of the game as well.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, I think that push your luck aspect of gaining cards, and it's that situation of, do I draw off the top because I want to make my expedition a little bit bigger, and maybe I'm going after a specific color or a specific role, and so I draw, and it's like, ooh, that's not what I wanted. And then I do it again. It's like, ooh, that's not what I wanted. But then Michael goes on an expedition, and now there's a whole bunch of new cards out there. And so I start filling up my hand. But so it's that push your luck of, I want a bigger expedition, but I don't also want to flood the display with a whole bunch of cards that everybody else is going to just clean up immediately. Because as the game goes, you see what people are picking up from the display. So I know that Michael may be collecting the botanist this turn, or if he starts grabbing all of the light green cards, I know he's maybe focusing on that region. So that part of it is the best part of the game for me. And I also think it's interesting because it's an ever-changing take on set collection. Yeah. It isn't always just, you're trying to get the most purple ones, and then whoever does that is going to do well. It's, I may want the purple ones now, but next time I'm making an expedition, I don't want those, or I'm chasing after this. And then maybe I have a whole bunch of pilots, or, well, a pilot's is a bad example based on the ability, but maybe I have a whole bunch of guides in front of me. Then the choice is, well, which one goes on top? Or I'm chasing after the red cards, and then I have 4 different roles to choose from that are all red. So which one am I going to put on? Which ability do I want? And I love that.
That's a fun decision.
That type of set collection, because it's not just straightforward and it's pivoting. And I think it's a great game of plate spinning, right? You're trying to balance moving up on which track. I need that, but I also want to use this role, but I need these cards to do it. And I love that juggling that's going on.
Well, and that juggling comes into the decision of, am I going to recruit another one, or is it time to launch an expedition? Yeah. And, oh, by the way, it's my turn again. Yeah. The turns are quick. There's not a ton of downtime, and especially early game as people are just starting out. So
yeah. And I think this is a great game that allows you to play the type of game that you want to play. So you
Say
can
more about that.
well, you can approach this game how you want. If you want to really focus on one or two tracks and try and move up those, if you want to focus on different abilities, there's really no wrong way to attack this game. And I like that. I like that you can, like, I want to, for example, there is a student card. There are twice as many student cards when you play with the student than there are of other cards. However, a student cannot lead an expedition, or maybe he can lead it, but he has no power. There's no power. However, it allows you to get really big expeditions, and the bigger your expeditions are, the more points you score. So it's like, it's a viable strategy to just go on very large expeditions and not do as much on the track, or do a whole bunch of tiny expeditions and move up the tracks and score points that way. So I think it lets you play in the way that you like to play. If you like to race up tracks, do that. If you like to build sprawling expeditions, you can do that as well. I also think the role abilities are easy to grasp, with only 6 of them
clear.
being used in a game. So once you kind of do that basic teach, it doesn't take very long for people to start grasping what each card does and what the iconography does.
Yeah, so you own this game. So
Yep.
I don't, and that's where I'm a little bit hesitant with the statement I'm about to make. So I want to couch it in that. I don't know what all the different roles are. There seems to be a lot in the base box.
Yeah.
Where you can shuffle in and shuffle out. You know, I've played the game a few times.
Yeah.
But that has me wanting to come back to it and play more and explore it. The other thing that I'll say, so there's two things. At a 3-player game, I didn't think that the game was an hour. I didn't log it as an hour. I logged it as 45 minutes with Teach. Is that accurate or inaccurate? Did you feel like this was an hour game?
That would be, I doubt it. Not at 3 players.
Yeah.
With only 2 seasons. The tricky part with this is that the turns go by so fast, and I'm engaged the entire time, that I feel like this is one of those games that could go 90 minutes, and I would be so lost in playing and engaged that it would blow by in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I logged our games at 30 minutes and 45 minutes. You know, and not that those are always accurate, but I try to make them accurate. So that was the one. The other thing is that the Board Game Geek community age of 8+. I disagree with that. I don't. Now my kiddo is 9, and we can get in that whole age. But Doug and I have played a lot of games with kids around that age. For a lot of years, and to me, this is not an entry point game for an 8-year-old kiddo. This is more of a 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kiddo. So I know we have a lot of listeners who play games with kids at that 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old range. And if you see community on Board Game Geek at 8+, from a gameplay standpoint, that's not my opinion. So I just wanted to share that. Longtime listeners will kind of know what we mean by that, because we do talk about that. But I wanted to get your take on it. Do you see it differently?
I think, yes, I 100% think that 8 is too low. I think the 9 to starting at 10, 9, 10 range is probably better. And I think that the 10 is a safe choice, right? And maybe that's where in the discussions going forward and things that we talk about, it's like, when we talk about age, it's not, can an 8-year-old play this? It's, when is the best starting point of that? Where is the maximum benefit? Because yes, an 8-year-old could play this, a 7-year-old could play this, but is it great for them? Not on a whole broad spectrum. You would want a little bit more of an age. So I think
the only reason why I bring that up, Doug, more and more I'm coming back to what the publisher says. 12+ seems right to me.
Yeah.
It seems right to me. If you want to stretch it down to 11 or 10, good for you. Congratulations. But this does feel like a 12+ game, and it also does feel like a family weight game.
Yeah. And we've talked about this before in the past. It's hard when publishers have those on the dates or on the box, because you never know if it's because that's what they think the age range for the game is, or if it's the toy manufacturing and choking hazard and testing things that they have to put that on the side of the box as well.
But on cards, that's where I didn't.
Well, but
lean
there
into
are
that.
the vehicles and ships.
Yep.
So
Yeah, that's true.
You never know. All right. So moving on to the production, unless you have any other thoughts on gameplay. Michael already talked about the artwork is clean, vibrant. I think the iconography in this game is really well done.
Stellar.
And one of the things I really like about this game, I'll try and show it. Let's see if I can here without dumping everything over. So this game, oh, great audio there, has a cardboard insert, but the insert has a spot for all of the different roll cards in it. This is probably one of the best cardboard inserts for a game that I have seen, and I don't believe I had to assemble it. I can't remember, but we're in an age where
that says a lot. Even if you did and you don't remember it, that says a lot.
We're in an age where plastic inserts and all of these fancy things bring out this tray and this tray. It's like there's two ends of the spectrum. There's that. And then there's also, I'm going to give you 5 baggies and you throw all your cards in there, and that's what shows up in the box. This is a very functional insert made out of cardboard and the actual cardboard insert of the box. Like I said, it has another little box here to keep all of the tokens in. It's just a box, and then other tracks are on the side. So insert-wise, really cool. The rule book is very straightforward, easy to read and understand. So A plus for me on that, on production. Anything else that you wanted to highlight there?
No, you said it, and I added some of it into the gameplay because to me, the art and the iconography, there's a lot of different colors.
Yeah.
But my color blindness was not an issue because the iconography helped me to sort that out and get right into the game.
All right, so let's talk about some things to be aware of.
I've got some things there to say.
Sure.
All good things, all good things.
So this re-implements Ethnos. I think this is probably the right time to talk about that.
I've been waiting to.
Ethnos has the exact same expedition card roll type of gameplay. That part of the game is the same. The part that is different is that instead of moving up tracks in Ethnos, it is a straight area control game on the board where you're using your expeditions to put out units and claim a region, and that region is going to be worth different points depending on what season you're in.
And you're trying to earn glory by doing that.
Yep. So for me, just putting that out there is, be aware that this game exists. There originally was published with John Howe? Is that
John Howe art, yep.
Who is, if you watch any of the Lord of the Rings documentaries of the making of the original trilogy, he's all over that. A very Lord of the Rings style artwork. Some people just did not like that or care for it.
And I happen to be on the other spectrum where I think it's beautiful. I really like John Howe's art. And I think just everybody's different. And this is where you can have an opinion about art and people can slam you, but it can still be your opinion about art. I read the Lord of the Rings books growing up. I went to the movies as they were released in the theater. So I'm a huge fan of the John Howe art. And for my only thing to be aware of, I see Ethnos and Archeos Society as two different games. And that might be a strong contention or a hot take or a point of disagreement. But that area control piece out on the map and moving up on tracks, for me, they are separate games. And that's where, I made that little disclaimer early in the episode. Doug owns Archeos Society. I happen to own Ethnos. So I don't, even though they're different games, I don't feel that I need to go out and get one to replace another. They're just different games. And I have that first edition with the John Howe art. There's a second edition that has come out with a little bit more cartoony art, I would say.
Yeah.
And the artist on that is David Tosello. So there's a few different editions out there. Just know that if you're looking for the game, you might run into some strong opinions from people. I haven't played the second edition, the newest one yet. I hope to at some point. But man, they're both really good games.
Yeah, and for me, on the original one, the John Howe art was never the problem for me. It was the graphic design around the John Howe art. It seemed like everything was separate. It's like they got this really cool artist, but then none of the other stuff of the game matched up with it.
Sure. There's text and other pieces.
Yeah, it just seemed kind of disjointed. So that kind of always bothered me. For me, the fun interaction of this game is the display area.
Yeah.
That's where the heart of it is for me. So my choice, I used to have Ethnos. I don't need area control on top of that interaction. I like the tracks better because, and here's my reason, is because I feel like it allows you to, when I was talking earlier in the gameplay about choosing your own path and the way that you want to play, I think Archeos Society gives you a better opportunity to do that and to spread out, and where in Ethnos, if somebody starts taking an area that's getting a bunch of points, you have to try and get in there, and then eventually
dominate that area,
and then you can kind of just get boxed out, and it's like, well, guess I'm never getting that area. So for me, when the core part of the game that I like is the display area and when to discard and go on my expedition, with those parts being the exact same in both games, then it defaults to, okay, which second part do I like better? And for me, it's the tracks. As Michael said, I don't have many thoughts on the new version of Ethnos because I haven't played it. So take that for what it's worth. But obviously, Archeos Society came out, and then people were like, I still want Ethnos, so they created another one of those. The other thing that I want to point out is I think that this game will take one game to get the cadence of the game down.
Yeah.
The monkeys can catch you off guard. There's 3 in the deck, kind of evenly spaced. And when the first one comes out, nothing. When the second one comes down, nothing. When the third one comes out, round immediately ends. And so kind of basing that and knowing how that works is a big component of it can catch people off guard in the first game that you play. But once
second game I played, it caught me off guard, cost me about 40 points. I was like, I guess I should have gone on that expedition after all.
Yeah, and so that's the tricky thing, is getting that timing down, which I think is a good opportunity to lead into our skills.
Yeah.
Because the time management in this game is really important, because once you start getting towards the bottom of that deck, you need to decide, is it worth starting a large expedition? If I have a large expedition, should I finish it up? Or am I going to then start doing a whole bunch of tiny ones? And that kind of ticking time bomb of that deck is a big factor of this game. And you'll see some people like drawing cards out of this display, so they're not drawing cards from the deck just to keep it going a little bit longer. And so I like that kind of manipulation of time, which normally you don't think about. You normally think about time management in like a real-time game or something where there's a clock counting down. This one, it's a deck of cards, and it can really catch you off guard.
That variable endpoint, I love it. I love that part of the game. The other thing that I really enjoy, and a skill that I think comes out in repeated plays once you know the rules and the framework of the game, is competition. And the designer Paolo Mori, I think, has done wonderful pieces and things with competition in his games.
Yeah.
Whether it's Captain Flip or Ethnos or Archeos Society or Unusual Suspects, a game that we've talked about in the past, but we define competition here at the Game Schooler Podcast as a game that develops healthy competitive habits as 2 or more parties compete for a goal or a reward that isn't shared. There's nice little bickering and bantering at the table as people are deciding to go on expeditions or to just, take that card. And I really think that the competition plays out, especially when unfortunate events happen. And I'm just going to double up on my skills here, and then I'll send it back to you. But there's a little bit of perseverance that comes in this game. And you have to have some personal responsibilities. I can clearly think, I can see the last time you and I played where it didn't work out well for me. I was trying to play defense and offense and didn't play either one well. I think one of your kids was playing with us as well. And,
Yeah.
you guys both had it rolling, and I was trying to wait for that big final turn. And what do you mean that third monkey came out already? Well, I have to own that. And
Yeah.
so we often talk about it in the game and being able to bounce back. But I think that end game moment too, where it's like, well, I still want to play the game again. I just didn't play it that well. So I
Yeah.
love the competition and the personal responsibility.
Yeah, the other one I talk about a lot because it is one of my favorite skills and one of the favorite things I enjoy in games, and that's tactical thinking. Game that challenges players to make decisions based on currently available and frequently changing information. The drawing blind off the top of the deck, the expedition that Michael goes on and puts a whole bunch of new cards out into the display can change where you thought you were going. So maybe I have 2 green cards, but now all of a sudden I can see an opportunity where I might get 4 botanist cards in a whole bunch of different colors. And so I like being able to pivot, and the amount of times that happens, and maybe it is that draw off the top that changes, like, ooh, I wasn't expecting to get that, but now I can see, oh, there's 4 students out there that nobody wants. Maybe I can add those and do something. So being able to observe what's going on and kind of pivot at a moment's notice, I think, is what helps you in this game. You can start out with a strategy. There's no long-term planning in this game. It's impossible to do. You're capped at 10 cards. You could keep drawing and drawing, but then you're just left with what you get.
You can't even really take an approach going into the game.
No, you have to.
And that's what leads me to my last skill is observation. And you said observe with the tactical thinking. But I when I've played this game and had the most fun is when I'm looking and seeing what other people are doing and responding to that. I tried another game, preparing for this review. I tried another game where I just was going to play defense and wait for and load up for a big turn. And it's like, whoa, this is not that type of game. I need to observe what's going on. I need to look at the cards that are happening, and I need to play based off of that. Those are my 3 skills I brought to the game.
All right, awesome. What's your final thoughts, Michael?
It's a great game. It's a great game that I think works really well in a family night. That's where I would family game night. That's where I would put this. How about you?
Yeah, I think Archeos Society is a beautifully developed game that provides the right balance of luck and strategy that keeps bringing me back to the table. All right, so that's our game of the week, Archeos Society from Space Cowboys.
The School of Gaming. In the School of Gaming, we discuss concepts, keywords, etiquette, and helpful ideas in the world of gaming. This week, we are fortunate to have a publisher spotlight and be joined by Andrew Esposito, the Senior Product Marketing Manager from the Games. Andrew, welcome to the Game Schooler podcast.
Thank you guys so much for having me again.
Yeah, 2025 edition.
Yeah.
Super excited to be here.
That's the thing with game publishers is they're always coming out with new stuff. So it's always good to get the refresh. We love what you guys at the do. And as in all publisher spotlights, we're just looking for you to kind of give us if we were on the floor of the Gamma Trade Show or if we were visiting the booth at Gen Con, what would those elevator pitches be of what you have coming out? Because we can't cover everything. We try, but we don't have enough time to play 3,500 games a year. I wish I did, but not yet. Maybe when I'm in a retirement home.
You and me both. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. Again, it's always a pleasure to chat with y'all. And if we were really in person, we'd probably be talking about our usual things that we like to talk about, which are sports and how is everybody doing. And then we get to the games. So let's get straight to the games. So very excited to kind of show off what we have coming in 2025. And yeah, if you guys have any questions along the way, as well as just comments and things like that, don't hesitate to reach out. So starting with our hobby genre of games. So at the Op Games, we're super fortunate. We have three great pillars of games. We have our co-brand line of games. These are licensed games of your favorites: Clue, Monopoly, Yahtzee, Jenga, things like that. We have our party family line of games, Telestrations, Blank Slate, Tapple. And then we have our hobby line of games. We like to call these light strategy games because they're usually games that you can play, within an hour, 90 minutes, and are great next level games, I like to call them. So if you've played games like Ticket to Ride or 10 Days in the USA, which we published last year, these games are great next steps for you to try out. The first few are out already, so we're super excited to partner with our friends at Roxley to release Marvel X-Men Dice Throne, which are out now. It features 8 brand new characters highlighting the X-Men, as well as a single character Deadpool deluxe set. So Dice Throne is essentially battle Yahtzee. So you're rolling dice, and every character plays so uniquely, and you're looking to make matches for abilities to attack your opponents. Or if you play the cooperative version that Roxley sells, you can use characters, team up with buddies, and fight like other villains and things like that. So very cool system, been around for a while. We partnered with Roxley a few years ago on Marvel Dice Throne, so super excited to partner with them again on Marvel X-Men Dice Throne. And you can get the 2 4-hero sets now, as well as the Deadpool set at retail. The other game super excited to partner with was Gamelin Games, the makers of the Tiny Epic series of games, which have been around for a long time, and I'm always amazed how much game they're able to fit in such a small footprint. So we're super excited to have partnered with them on Tiny Epic Game of Thrones, which is also available now. This is a fantastic, 1, 2, 4 player in the base game. I like to say dudes on map, asymmetric abilities, area control, war game. So very thematic to Game of Thrones. You have your house that you're representing that has a unique ability, as well as you're allying yourself with other houses, vying for control of places like King's Landing and other landmarks throughout the series. Very, very cool. It features a really unique dice selection mechanism where you'll be rolling dice and drafting dice that give you specific actions. Then your opponents can follow said action with that action. So really cool system there. Plays really well. And again, it always amazes me how much game they can fit in a tiny box this size. And that's also out now.
Is that based on any other previously available game, or is it brand new?
Brand new game designed by the Gamelin Games team. Super excited to partner with them. Available at retail now. And like I said, very, very cool system that they've created here with that dice drafting and kind of passing system, as well as like the houses playing asymmetric. And the really cool thing too is every card, so there's like a shared deck of cards that all have multifunction purposes. Every card has unique artwork, which is really cool, custom artwork. So not stills from the show. And they do just so many cool things. So there's a lot of variety when playing because you probably won't see all the cards in the deck. So very, very cool system. So super excited to have that one out now.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Hey, before we move on to our next slide, if I could just interject, I actually signed up for my first organized play event for Dice Throne. So very excited to jump into that world and take 3 characters with me, and one of them will get eliminated, 2 of them will stay, and I'll choose one and go to work. So a whole lot of learning that's been happening for me in that, but we love all things Dice Throne here at the Game Schooler podcast. So great work on that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love the Dice Throne franchise as well, too, because, talking through a game schooler lens, you can really scale that down to younger ages. What I like to do is just take away the deck of ability cards and just basically play straight Yahtzee. Because, if they understand numbers and matching, like you can play with a younger level of player, as long as the themes and things like that for the sets that you're using are appropriate. But that's how I play with my younger niece. We just don't play with the deck of cards and just do straight Yahtzee, and it works pretty well.
Cool. And all of the characters you'll be bringing, Michael, will all be from the Marvel X-Men line, right?
I cannot confirm that at this time.
Can't give them an advantage.
What I could say though is Andrew's a much better uncle than I am father, because when I play with my 9-year-old and she asks me what this card means, I now use that to my advantage to try to defeat her much quicker. So I like the nice, friendly way, other than, oh no, I could tell you what that card means. Yeah, that tippet. Now I know that that's coming.
I'll explain it to you after I remove it from your hand with this
right.
card.
We don't want to use that one. That one's not good for you right now. Oh, you rolled 6 6s? That's bad, actually.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that.
Reroll.
So super excited for these partnerships that are available now. Our first big game of the year was Hutan, Life in the Rainforest. This is the next game in our partnership with Sidekick Games, who released Aqua Biodiversity in the Oceans with last year, which was a beautiful tile placement game, featuring, the breathtaking, animals in the ocean. And this one compounds on that. So designed by Daniel and Asger, the same team that did Heat, Pedal to the Metal, which is a fantastic hobby level game, with artwork by Vincent Dutrait, you are essentially building a rainforest. Hutan is the Indonesian word for rainforest. And what you'll be doing on your turn there'll be these flower cards that you'll be drafting. And when you take a flower card, you'll place flowers onto your own player board. And you're really trying to get the same color flower in each of the sections that are on your player board. When you get a flower of the same color and place it on a flower of that color, so red on red, white on white, you sprout a tree. And these trees are wonderful because they'll be worth points at the end of the game. And if you're able to fill up a whole section of your board with trees, you'll attract an animal. And there are a bunch of great animals in the game, and animals score you points at the end of the game as well. They also have this great cascading effect, which is really cool. Very similar to Aqua, the game features a great insert that you punch out, build once, and then everything slots in really nicely. And very similar to Aqua, the game can be played solo to 4 players, features both a family variant as well as an advanced variant, which is really exciting. So gamers of all levels can really find something here, because the solo game also includes challenges, achievements, and scenarios as well. So very, very cool package that's super excited to have out now.
Cool. That looks great.
And Vincent Dutrait. He never sleeps. The artwork's so beautiful. Love working with them. Our next light strategy game is Cat Between Us. I love Cat Between Us because a lot of games that I get to the table usually are those ones that take like 15, 30 minutes to play, the smaller games. And this is a perfect game for the beginning or end of a potential game night, or if you're just traveling because it has a small footprint. So Cat Between Us is a card game, and I like to call it a hand management, hand manipulation game. Because what's going to happen on a round is you'll flip over a card and it'll have a goal number on it. Let's say 35 in this instance. And you'll have a hand of number cards. And what you'll be doing on your turn is playing one number card to one of the 6 cat toys in front of you. After a cat toy has 2 number cards associated with it, that is going to dictate the value of that cat toy as it's left in your hand. For instance, if the pink cat toy has a 6 and a 3, that toy will be worth 9 points. So any pink toys you have remaining in your hand will be worth 9 points each. And what you're trying to do is get as close as possible without going over that goal number that we set at the beginning of the round. So it's very thinky, it's very puzzly, but just explained the rules in about 30 seconds. So it's one of those great games that's simple to teach, but then a little bit challenging to master. Because the interesting thing too is it's first to 3 points. And if you're the winner of round 1, you move to round 2 and everybody else stays in round 1, and the number of cards that you'll be keeping back changes. So the puzzle changes ever so slightly of how you want to manipulate these toys, because the number of cards you're going to have in your hand will be different than the other players. So very cool, very thinky, but again, in a way that's very simple to teach. And again, perfect for the beginning or ending of game night, and it has a small enough footprint that this is a great one to throw in your bag and play at conventions or, on a train or something like that. Do people still take the train? I think so.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't want to offend any train goers.
Now, do the folks in round one work together to work against the leader? Does it
Nope,
have
they're
some of
all still
that? Or
playing. They're all still
yep,
playing
yep.
their own game. And again, not like a phase 10 situation when there's lots around. It's first to 3, so there won't really be a lot of times where a lot of players will be stuck in X round while everybody's so
Yeah.
far ahead, which is nice. And the game plays pretty quickly,
Cool.
because again, those people that probably are in round 2, those people that are in round 1 will probably win that next round, moving to round 2 and stuff like that. So it does a pretty good job of keeping everybody pretty close together. Awesome. Our next 2 games, very, very excited for. They are our big games for Gen Con 2025.
Ooh, can you give us any spoilers on what the booth is going to be like or how it's going to be tied to it? Or are those decisions not made yet? Are you going to have a third floor to host meetings on and a second floor that's going to be a lounge? I mean, I can't wait to hear more about this.
Incredible. The events team is hard at work planning the booth, so I don't want to spoil anything just yet because, like you said, I say it's April, but at the same time, it's April. So, I'm sure they're heads down, focused on making it as a splash, if you will. No pun intended, talking about our next game here, Fountains. Fountains is a beautiful tile laying game where you will be creating your own fountains. So it's a beautiful game where on the center of the table there is a rondel where you'll be moving these pawns around on your turn, and wherever you land is the tile that you're going to be drafting. When you draft a tile, there are great features on them like coins, lily pads, fish, as well as water sprouts. And the thing that you're going to be doing here is building this fountain in a way so that the water has a continuous flow throughout your fountain, because you're only going to score those features if water goes to them, and water only flows from top to bottom or side to side, same level. So it's an interesting puzzle of building up, because features that are on higher levels will score you more points, or making it easier for everything to be watered on those lower levels. So it creates a really beautiful picture, and scoring is going to happen throughout the game multiple times. So when the blue pawn lands on the blue space, you're going to score your pools, green on green lily pads, white on white fish. So really cool scoring mechanism that happens multiple times throughout. And just a really beautiful game. These tiles are this heavy duty foam core, so they're really nice to pick up, but this box also doesn't weigh 1,000,000 pounds. Also includes a solo mode, which is excellent, as well as can play up to 5 players and an advanced variant. One of my favorite things about Fountains is that this can, even at a 5-player game, you're probably out of here in 45 minutes, 60 tops. So it's really great to get a complete game experience in that time frame.
Yeah, that one looked really cool. I saw that set up on at Gamma and got a brief demo of that, and it looks really cool on the table.
Great. So that's a Gen Con release?
Yep, this will be Gen Con 2025, which we're super excited for players to check out. Because again, like I said, I love Fountains because of its approachability, because it's a very simple game, kind of a universal theme. And like I said, I love games that can be played solo if you want to do that as well. And then also, you can get a great game experience in that hour time frame, which is really exciting. Our next game is T-Witches. So this is one of the other big games that we'll be releasing at Gen Con 2025. This is a beautiful game that we first showed off at Gen Con 2024. It gave media a sneak peek of the game. A little bit more has come out through since then. And in this game, you are witches at the Tequinox Fair, and you are essentially attracting patrons to your booth and serving those witches, or any sort of patron, tea. So very, very cool. And the game is structured in 2 phases. The first phase of every round is the summoning phase, and this is a very small push your luck game where you'll be attracting those witches to your hut to serve in the services phase. Push your luck phase, the services phase, has a lot of fantastic luck mitigation to it. So you'll always have witches to serve. You can see on the player board here for the visual watchers, there are hex wards, and these hex ward spaces protect your witches and things like that. So you will always have someone to serve, which is nice. And that's all in service for the services phase, which is the real big meat and potatoes of the game, which is a worker placement game where you'll be taking your workers, which are called the teapups, which are these really cute anthropomorphic teapups, and you'll be placing them around boards on the player board. Every space has a unique ability of what it does, and you'll be collecting toppings like boba bugs and eye cubes, as well as specific types of tea. And there's a beautiful fountain piece in the center of the board that, as one of your actions, you can rotate that fountain so specific styles of tea are at the location where your teapup is to fill up your teapup to help serve the witches as you play throughout the game. So much more to it. There's a great polyomino aspect where you'll be buying upgrades for your tea huts that you'll be able to place that can hold toppings as well as tea and give you generous, advantages and things like that. So really beautiful production designed by Manny Vega with artwork by Sandara Tang, who did Flamecraft, most recently Critter Kitchen. Her artwork is just sensational. And so there's a lot to do. I love the to-go order system as well, which are orders that you can fill on other players' turns. So it keeps you engaged while other players are taking their turn. So really beautiful design. I do like to preface that this one is probably on the tail end of our hobby games, i.e., simple what you're doing on your turn, but there's a lot that you could be doing on your turn. So I like to say this one plays about 30 minutes per player. So at a 4-player game with a teach, you're probably looking at around that 2-hour range, which is a little on the tail end for some of our hobby games, but really exciting to bring something, a little, heavier to the market, which is really, really cool.
Yeah,
that's great.
Another one that looks great on the table for sure.
We're excited to see that. It was great to get a sneak peek of that at Gen Con 2024. It was definitely something that we both talked about coming back, and it can't wait to play that out. You could see some shared DNA. Well, I was going to more from the production aspect with Gnome Hollow, just with potential wooden pieces, magnetic board, how things are moving along in there as well. Just amazing art, and we love Manny Vega. So
Manny is wonderful.
Good work on that, Andrew.
As a human being and as a game designer.
Yeah.
And this game will also feature a deluxe upgrade kit. So as Michael mentioned, very similar to our Gnome Hollow strategy, there won't be a ultimate edition of the game. It'll be regular version of the game with upgrade kit that you can buy separately that'll make the tea tokens like these nice acrylic tokens, as well as everything becomes wooden. So really, really great production value. I just saw the insert.
I love that strategy, by the way.
It's great. It gives the people who want to upgrade the upgrade potential without making another SKU of like a deluxe version, because I never want to feel people feel like they get left out of any of the gameplay stuff in a base version. So it worked for us for Gnome Hollow, and we're really excited to bring it here as well. And very, very cool design. 2 things I want to point out too that I really love. First one is we'll have a quick start guide available. So similar to great games like a Wingspan or an Arc Nova, you'll be able to kind of walk through players' first turn. So it kind of helps onboard them, which is really nice. Just like detailed, like, hey, how about you try doing X, Y, and Z in round 1 to kind of get people into the flow of the game. I also love the rule book in this game. Some of the pages open up and they become 3 pages across, so like a trifold. So really beautiful representation there, as well as it's tabbed, so you can get to exactly where you need to go. So it's really cool. If you have a question about one of the huts abilities, one of the worker placement places, you can tab straight to that area and boom, you're right there. So very, very cool, unique stuff we're doing with the production of the game as well. I also mentioned that the op is so fortunate to also create a great line of party and family games. So really wanted to highlight some of those real quickly. The first one, The Office Paper Paranoia. This is out now, and this is an excellent social deduction hidden identity game based off the DNA of one of the games we released earlier, The Thing Infection at Outpost 31. This is a game where some players will be part of Dunder Mifflin and some people will be part of Osprey Paper, and you're basically going on these missions where it's like, hey, we need 5 staplers. We only got 4 staplers. Who didn't put in a stapler? So a great, more approachable and universal social deduction hidden identity game with a great theme. There's the Wheel of Chores that had some fun elements to it. So really great for Office fans, but also fans of just social deduction hidden identity games. So very excited that that one's out now. Flip 7, a game that I know y'all have talked about in the past, and has kind of taken the world by storm. We are so excited that about 2 weeks ago, Flip 7 was available at Walmart, so you can purchase at walmart.com right now or at your local Walmart in what we're calling the second edition of the game. And this version is in a smaller box than the current version, as well as includes a hang tag and smaller MSRP. So now the game is $7.99
Wow.
from the original $13.99. So this is just going to afford that this game get to so many more players at that new price point and that new footprint. So
Really trying to live up to that tagline, aren't you? Of the greatest card game of all time there with that. It's
I agree.
unbelievable that that's an $8 game.
It's amazing. And one of the things I love about Flip 7 is it's kind of broken containment in, I like to call, our little industry, right? People are playing this game outside of people who just play board games, which is so exciting, because this is already on hang tags next to, legacy games like Uno and Phase 10, and with our shiny box, maybe we'll stand out. So it's great to just be in the same category of those games, but also this game, more than any game that I've played recently, has a virality to it where I'll play it with a group of people and somebody always is like, oh, I want a copy of this.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of that approachability of it just being so simple and creating so many great moments that it lends itself to that.
A wonderful example of something that just completely goes across generations as well, right? I could be playing with, we'll say, an uncle who may be or may not be a degenerate gambler. And then I could be playing with my 9-year-old, and my 9-year-old's trying to figure out how long before I'm at 200, right? So 171, 182, 193. I'm not quite there yet. Got to get there, while the uncle's over there. Hit me. So just a wonderful game. We've talked a lot about it, and I know we'll continue to talk about it. So
That's
great
amazing.
work on that
I
one.
appreciate y'all's support. And like I said, with the game school lens as well, too, I'm sure you guys probably talked about this, but great for younger players to learn addition, probability as well, too, right? Everybody's got in that SAT question where it's like, there are 12 blue marbles in the bag. You take out 3 of them. What's the probability and things like that, right? And the deck being seated in a way that there's 12 12s, 11 11s, and that, hey, 6 11s have already been dealt out. You can kind of help younger players learn a little bit about probability, which is really cool.
And I didn't mean to jump in on your segment, Andrew, and I certainly was not calling my brother-in-law a degenerate gambler. Just to get those two things on the record, Flip 7's a great game that can be played with all different types of people.
Yeah, I like to call it in-law approved. You can play it with anyone, teach it in 30 seconds. And I am that person in my group that is always going to ride the lightning and be like, I have a 12, 11, and 10 out. Let me see another one. So super excited to bring that to more people. We actually, we were just out at the San Diego Padres opening day, and we handed about 1,000 copies out to just people walking by, right? Because it's one of those things where you want to get this game into people's hands. Yeah. And that's the first step. So it was great too. And it was a beautiful day in, San Diego as well too, which was great. But we also have a brand new card game coming out this year that's really exciting called Tacta. And this is a great game where we like to say connect, cover, and conquer. And what this is you'll have a deck of cards that all have these really unique shapes on them. And what you're doing on your turn is very simple. You're just playing one of your cards on top of an opponent's color card. And how you do that is there are these shapes on these cards. So a square might cover a square, a triangle covers a triangle. You can't you have to make sure the cards aren't overlapping on other cards, and there are a few other rules, but very simple what you're doing on your turn. And these cards have these little white pips on them. And after everybody's played their cards from their hands, you'll count up all the white pips that are still visible, and whoever has the most showing on their color wins. So you're basically covering up opponents' white pips through those shapes to have you have the most dots showing. So very simple concept, but really great game, amazing table presence, plays fairly quickly, can play a large group, as well as also has some fun variants in the box, like the real-time variant, where instead of going in turn order, everybody's playing at the same time. So it makes a game 5 minutes max, not even. So really great variants there. Some also fun tweaks to the formula as well, too, that are included in the box. So super excited for this one to come out later this summer, because I think it's a wonderful game. Like, again, one of those very simple to teach games. Next, we have Glyphics. Super excited for Glyphics because, again, the party family line that we present, Blank Slate, Tapple, we like that these games can be shared with anyone. And Glyphics is Pictionary, essentially, but with these wild and wacky plastic shapes. So there are dozens and dozens of these wild plastic shapes that come in the game. A player will take a card and have their team try to guess a word on that card. And then there's a timed element, so they'll only have so long, and then all the other players are trying to guess what they're making. So very, very cool, very, very simple. It might be bulldozer, and then you'll take your little shapes and you try to make a bulldozer. So really fun, one of those ones that's very funny too, because it's like, what were you trying to go for there? Also very smart are some shapes that help you get to where you need to go. And what I mean by that are like things like arrows. So if you're doing something like kicking, you might build a person and then point the arrow to their foot and things like that. So a lot of fun, very simple to teach, very fun to play type of game that's coming out this summer.
And is there, when you're building, do you have access to all of the pieces, or do you just have a section of them?
You have access to all the pieces, so you can kind of, mix and match and kind of figure out, okay, what's going to be the best way for me to represent out of this world? That's a tough one.
That's cool.
Yeah. Cool.
25 words or less. So 25 words or less has been a game we've had on our line for a while now, and we are doing a brand new refresh for this year. We've kicked Meredith Vieira off the cover. No offense, Meredith, we love you. And this game is a great word association game. Again, great for younger players as well too. Of you essentially have a list of 5 words, and you're trying to have your partner or team guess those 5 words by only using single word clues. And at the beginning, you'll basically bid on, I think I can get my team to guess in 20 words. And Doug might be 15 words. I'm like, okay. And you might say blank media. And maybe they might say social. So very cool word association game in what's called, not trademarked or anything, but I like to call it our porta party line of game, where the game has a magnetized lid. And the lid is a game element. So for here, it's tracking the number of words that have been said by the opposing team and keeping like a little rules right on there. And then it's magnetized in a nice little package. Very, very cool.
You guys are doing great stuff with magnets.
We love magnets. So very excited and kind of just getting this a new fresh coat of paint and kind of bringing it to, a different audience. And then,
can we just real quick?
Yeah,
is that
please.
one family friendly? The one that you have
absolutely.
on the screen here? Okay,
Absolutely. 25 words or less is family friendly. It's not like an after dark version, so it doesn't feature any words that are inappropriate for younger audiences or anything like that.
Yeah, we've had to do some caveats with our Tapple whenever we bring that up. Not the after dark version. We're talking about Tapple. So just wanted to check on that one.
Oh, 100%. That's a great thing to check on. How many what? How many what is a hilarious game of measuring things with other things or stuff with other stuff in this word. So you might have a card that is, for fun shakes, let's say, how many Danny DeVito's tall is the Eiffel Tower, right? Or, in this case, it might be how many sugar granules tall is a basketball. So really fun things like that every player has a whiteboard and they'll make
12,032 for those keeping score at home.
Oh,
back to you, Andrew.
Okay, well, hold on. Checking up. You could be right. So everybody writes their number And then there's a light voting element to it of who you think is closest. And then you get a point if you're right, or the closest. You get a point if you voted correctly, and you get an additional point if you did both. So very simple scoring mechanism. Score is kept right there, porta party style, on the magnetized lid. So just a great game. Like, this is one of those games where you go over to a friend's house or something and they're like, rules, I don't want to learn any rules. And, like, you play this, right? Same with a blank slate, so very, very cool. And like I said, and a game great for game schoolers as well. Like, just a great game of kind of, you know, not probability in a sense, but like just measurement, right? Of like,
Yeah.
hey, using what you know of, because kids probably know what a basketball is, and saying, how many basketballs wide do you think a blue whale is, right? And it just lets them think a little bit of, I honestly, what are you guys thinking off the top of your heads?
437.
437. Doug, what are you talking?
That's pretty close. I was thinking the 500 range.
Okay, blue whale, big animal. Remember that. But you could be right.
But
I
you
just
said
made that
wide,
one up.
not long,
I'll
right?
Google it.
You
Well,
said wide.
yeah, wide.
Oh,
So,
wide.
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So, okay, I could see it.
I'm thinking
it's
like
great, right?
200
Because that's
then.
what the game encourages, right? It encourages that conversation of like, okay, wait a second, dog. You said 15 basketballs. That's the size of this room. So very, very cool game. Very excited to bring it out. We like to say the best new game night experience by a mile, or 6 Titanics. So very fun. And then one that you guys will love, Tapple Mini.
Ooh.
So Tapple is such a wonderful game that really kind of went viral last year through TikTok, and just, really broke that containment that I was mentioning with Flip 7. And right reason, right? It's such a simple word association game where, you have these wheel of letters, you flip over a category card, it might be pizza toppings, and then you press the button, 10-second timer goes to the next player, and they have to do it with the letters available. Tapple Mini takes that package and brings it on the go. Smaller MSRP of $9.99. What I love about Tapple Mini is the engineering behind it. So still the same great game. These are now pop sockets, which is really cool. And you still press the button in the middle, and then after a certain amount of time, it'll pop up and go and have that sound, but there's no electronics in the game. So this is a great one that you can throw in the backpack, or, have dozens of them at school, because there's no fear of the disc getting damaged. And very similar, the category cards slot right into the middle. So the whole package is in this very small footprint, which is very, very cool. So super excited.
$10?
10
That's
bucks.
awesome.
$10. And like I said, this one, we were using on the line at Disneyland, because it's so small that you could just kind of hold it in your palm and kind of do it that way,
Yeah.
And like I said, water resistant and all that good stuff. So
we got a bunch of teachers that are going to be excited about that one.
Yeah, that will be all over our Discord. That's cool.
Which is exciting to bring that out. And then finally, but not least, Telestrations is getting a brand new refresh for 2025. Telestrations has been a mainstay in party family games since it launched in 2009, and we're kind of bringing it to a brand new generation. It's still the same great game you love, streamlined a little bit. We removed the timer, we removed the die, things that players weren't really using, because at the end of the day, Telestrations was really just about having fun, right? So super excited to bring that to everybody later this summer, beginning in June.
Awesome. And then avoid the Telestrations After Dark.
Yes, avoid the Telestrations.
You said 2009? It's been out that long?
It's been out a while.
Wow. Great work.
But yes, Game Schooler crew, regular Telestrations is for you. And the party family games are exciting because Tapple's a great example. We include category cards in the game, but I encourage you to kind of use categories that are relevant to your everyday life, right? Michael and I were talking off air about the NCAA tournament happening right now for basketball, right? So maybe it's just basketball teams. That might not be a card in the game, but you can certainly do it. So it lends itself to kind of stuff, scientific terms in the classroom, photosynthesis. So very, very cool game. And then finally, won't spend too much time here,
Mm.
but we have a lot of great licensed games coming out this year. One that I really want to highlight is 10 Days in the National Parks. This is a fantastic new version of the game, never before done, so a brand new version of the game that includes a few tweaks there, featuring and celebrating the national parks across America, with beautiful artwork and that great 10 days formula. So very, very excited to get that out for players as well too, as well as Tapple Disney Edition. So
Mm.
we were just talking about Tapple, a brand new edition with this beautiful, very thematic wheel coming that features categories based on Disney properties. So very, very cool way there to do that as well too. And then just a lot of great versions of great games, like Candyland the Grinch I like to point to because it has the version of Candyland that I personally like to play, which is players draw 2 cards on their turn and choose one, and then there's never going back. So you never have to go backwards on the board. So I like that because it makes it a little bit less mean of a game where you're like, oh, I'm gonna win, and then you flip over a card and it's like, oh, you're back to space 3. And just great versions. Really excited for uh, Jaws Operation, which is very cool. I just saw what that looks like, as well as Nightmare Before Christmas Operation. It features like a Jack with like like the presents around the tree in the bag and stuff like that. So very, very cool. So excited.
To many of our listeners who are driving, or if you're out on your walk or doing the dishes, take a note of where we are in the podcast and then head over to YouTube or Spotify, wherever you can find the video segment. Andrew is currently showing, I did a quick count, which is most definitely wrong, but 41 different titles from February through October.
I'm going to say 32.
32? All right. Yeah, there you go. I might get the point. But this is why we have a publisher spotlight. We cannot possibly cover all of these games, even mention them, do them justice. So just check them out and see what's coming out from the app. The Chess Zelda is the one that really
I was about to mention that. Chess Zelda is wonderful. It features these beautiful metal pieces, and it's a really, really cool version of chess. We have Mario Chess as well, too, which is an excellent version that features these great plastic features.
Had my eye on that one for a while. Tell me about Risk Strike, Game of Thrones.
So Risk Strike is a brilliant dice version of Risk. So it's just dice and cards, very small footprint, very quick playing. So very similar in like the Monopoly Deal range of games where they're taking these classic games and kind of making them smaller footprint, quicker playing. Risk Strike is a quicker playing of Risk, and this is one of the first licensed versions of Risk Strike with Game of Thrones. So very thematic. We did do a very fancy version of Risk Game of Thrones. That is the Risk that you know and love, with a lot of great additions. So if you haven't checked that out, you should definitely check that version out. But this kind of truncates it into the Risk Strike formula, where you'll be rolling dice and still conquering those territories and things like that. So very cool.
Wow.
Very
You guys
cool.
are doing a lot.
Yeah, there's
a lot
so
of
much.
stuff
And
there.
like I said, Avatar The Last Airbender, Clue is excellent. The Trivial Pursuit is excellent. So something for Avatar fans. One that I personally love that might be a little off kilter, but Monopoly Gilmore Girls. Very, very cool. I love the Gilmore Girls. Just guilty by association. So that one just came out and it's awesome. If you're a Gilmore Girls fan, we'll also have Trivial Pursuit later this year.
So where would somebody pick that up? Let's just pretend that, one of the hosts here has an anniversary coming up and maybe they're married to an absolute Gilmore Girls fanatic. Where can people get titles?
I'd love
like
to see
this?
you play that Trivial Pursuit, Michael.
No, I said Monopoly.
Okay.
I'm dice. I'm buying property. Okay, all over the East Coast. Okay, I'm looking to see maybe I can get properties where Rory's going to college. I got to see where I can buy in here.
Gotta have everything. It's available on our website, theop.games, THEOP.games, GAMES, or you can go to your local retailer. You can also find them online at select online retailers. But if you have a local friendly game store, go support that, because a lot of them carry, especially the licensed versions, because Monopoly does sell pretty well. It's a kind of a universal game that people know. So see if they have the SKU in stock that you're interested in as well.
It's awesome.
And then a fun Airbud GIF. That's only for the video listeners. So
Okay.
head over to YouTube and watch the video.
Yeah, thank you. There's an Easter egg in there.
But yeah, as you can see, we have such a awesome lineup throughout 2025. And, one of the great things at the Op Games is we can really say that we have something for everyone. Our party family game, especially our core games, we like to say that we're providing joy, laughter, and lifetime memories. Because really, at the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? Getting to the table with your friends, providing that joy, laughing at games like Telestrations, Tapple, Blank Slate, Hues and Cues, and creating those lifetime memories with the people that you love. So super excited. And again, I thank you guys so much for having me on, to letting me talk about everything we have for 2025.
Oh, it's always great to have you, Andrew, and appreciate all of the care and all of the awesome games that are coming out from you guys. That's a big, what you just mentioned, making memories is the big part of gaming. And I think a lot of times people lose sight of that. So we appreciate having a company like you guys out there creating games that are doing that and not getting caught up on gamers, but families and just playing the games. I think is a big difference there. So thank you so much for coming on, Andrew. We really appreciate it. And, best of luck, and we'll hope to see you at Gen Con.
Thank you.
Every week, Michael and I highlight a list of games we want to play, enjoy, or spread the word about. Plus, everybody loves lists. So this week, we are going to be talking about a game or a group of games that I'm surprised we haven't discussed up to this point, which is pick up and deliver games. And I'm really excited about this list because it has a lot of games on it that we have not, or I have not talked about a lot, I don't think. So I'm anxious to see where your list goes. I don't have any caveats. It's a list. I could have gone to 10 if pushed on it.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to have some great games. My prediction is one crossover, possibly for sure, and a second based on what you may have played.
Yeah, I'll say we're crossing over on at least two because this is a pretty restrictive list when you cut it down to 5. And even though we're on episode 213, I thought, well, we've done this before.
Yeah.
We both like pick up and deliver. We play a lot of pick up and deliver. We get demoed a lot of pick up and deliver, but no, this is our first. And I know we won't have crossover on this one because you haven't played it. This is a game, one of the first games that I really played solo and dug into. This is a game that I ended up trading away thinking that, well, I'll never play that again. And then I got it back in a trade later because it stuck with me. And that's Autobahn. Released in 2022, designed by Fabio Lupiano and Nestor Mangoni, published by Alley Cat Games, and a game that I very much have thought about. I want to play this at a convention. I need to replay this again. But Autobahn is my most complex and heaviest game on the list. This is a hobby level game. It does take an hour and a half to 2 hours to play. It is that 14-year-old entry point where you are playing cards out of your hand and building the Autobahn over 3 different phases. And so, the map of Germany and some of the surrounding nations starts to get unveiled as the game goes on, and that's going to open up other territories and more technologies for you as you're trying to pick up your goods and deliver them. Pick up and deliver is a core mechanic of a game that has many different mechanics in it, but the two are pick up, deliver, and hand management. And you really have to combine those two together in a game that I know the rating as I see it on BGG, it's like, should I even be talking about it? But I feel like there have been some good videos that have been put out, and this game has gotten distilled more over the last couple of years. So one that if you're at a convention or if it's in the game library at your local store, just open it up and see if you can handle it. One that I want to get back to the table and had a lot of fun playing solo and want to play with other humans eventually. My number 5, Autobahn.
Cool. All right. My number 5 is the lightest game on my list, and one that I wanted to kind of throw on there as one that I've gotten a great amount of enjoyment with my kids playing. And there's not a lot of kids games, I feel like, that add a pick up and deliver element. And this one is Ghost Fightin' Treasure Hunters. This came out in 2013 from Mattel and designer Brian Yu. But essentially, you have to go into the house. It's a cooperative game. You're going into the house as a group of kids, trying to get the gems out of the house. But there are ghosts that are filling up the rooms, and and can make it impossible to pass through certain rooms and that type of thing. So the basic structure of go in, grab the gem, bring it out of the house before being consumed by ghosts. So very simple, but my kids love it. I've played it with all three of my kids at the ages. They fight over which character they get to be. And it's been a blast. Very simple game of just rolling a die, and that's how far you move. It's a roll and move game, but it is fun. So that is my number 5, Ghost Fightin' Treasure Hunters.
That's awesome, Doug. We should add that to our list. I haven't played that one yet. I'd like to check that out. Number 4 for me is where I believe we may have crossover. Episode 173, we talked about Dabbawala, and the Game Schooler podcast has been champions of Dabbawala.
Yeah.
Designed by Felix Ledger and Patricia Limburger, who's also the artist, published by Queen Games. Folks, I can't really do a ton of justice in a quick overview. Doug talked about a great insert in our Game of the Week with Archeos Society. Dabbawala also has a really solid production of how that insert's put together.
It's almost a storage solution as opposed to an insert, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, the game takes place in Mumbai, and you are basically trying to deliver food. All right. And we tell an awesome story if you go back and listen to that segment about it. But the pickup phase, you're taking turns as you're moving your Dabbawala through Mumbai to collect Dabba cards. And then, there's also a delivery phase. So the 2 phases of the game, one is pick up, one is deliver.
Makes sense. All adds up.
It does. It's not in my collection simply because I only have so much space in my house, and I know it's in your collection, Doug.
Yeah.
But one that I do have on a list where if I ever didn't live close to Doug, I would want to pick up because I absolutely just love how those 2 phases come together. Number 4 for me, Dabbawala.
Great game. Not leaving my collection anytime soon. My number 4
wasn't insinuating that.
That is
it is a great game.
A vote of confidence from me.
Yeah.
That it's not leaving. My number 4 is a pirate game that I've talked about before, but it is Black Fleet. This came out in 2014 from Space Cowboys designer Sebastian Bleasdale. But this is a classic go to a port, pick up goods there, take them across the board to a different port to sell them to get money to then buy upgrades for your ship. It's very basic at its core. A lot of times when people think of pick up and deliver, it's a boat, or a car moving across. Like, this is a boat. You pick up goods from one area, load them on your little plastic ship, and move across the board. That's simple. There are merchant ships and pirate ships, so you can steal goods from other folks and things like that. But great little pirate game and really has that pick up and deliver down. That's my number 4, Black Fleet.
Awesome. My number 3 is another pirate game, and that's Pirates Cove, which we talked about in episode 167. You can go back and listen to it. We have been championing this game, and it's been on many high five lists. Word from the designer is that one of the designers, Daniel Stahl, this game could potentially be on Kickstarter at some point again, so be on the lookout for that. Can't confirm it, but I do have it on a pretty good source that could be on Kickstarter at some point. But in Pirates Cove, 3 to 5 players are pirates. You're running around the map. You're burying treasure. You're trying to make sure that you stay alive and make things happen. If you want to hear more about it, you can go back and listen in episode 167. We talked about it for probably 30 or 40 minutes because we both absolutely love this game, and it really is a gem that I hope more people get to play and explore and experience. Pirates Cove.
Awesome. On my short list, my number 3 is a game I think Michael would love if he played it. And this one came out in 2013. It is by famed designers Kiesling and Kramer. That is Coal Baron. This is currently being published by CNC Publishing. I think mine is from R&R Games. But in Coal Baron, you have a mine shaft, which is a dual layered board. It's probably one of the first games that I ever knew about that had a dual layer player board. And that is your mine cart that goes down the shaft to get coal at various levels of your mine shaft. and you spend action points, but you get those by worker placement. Everything is a worker placement. And so if I have 10 action points, to slide all the way down to the bottom of my mine shaft is 1 action point, but to load 1 coal on it, that's an action point. To move it up 1 spot, that's an action point. To load on another one, action point. Slide it all the way to the top, 1 action point. And then, action points to unload them into the various carts and buggies that you have that are collecting them. They have like 3 different modes of transportation, I think. One of like a horse and carriage and different things like that. But then what's unique about it is that when you go to deliver it, you go to basically the mode of transportation that you want to deliver. So if I have 2 or 3 contracts that are all horse and buggy and I go to that spot, I can deliver them all at once. So even though you may have completed a card, you may not fulfill it until you get maybe a couple more of those. And that moving that mine cart up and down the shaft to try and collect money is really tight in the game, is really cool. But that function of like you're buying the different mine carts that attach onto your mine that have the coal in them, and then you need to bring them to the surface, spread them out. So in a situation like Black Fleet, where you're talking about going over large bodies of water to collect things, this is like, it's in the ground. How do I get it out, and how do I sell it, basically? So that is my number 3, Coal Baron.
You still own it?
I still own that one. Yep.
Yeah, we should play that. That's one that I was on Kickstarter. I didn't back it because there's only so many things to back,
Yep.
right? And I thought, well, it'll get widely released in retail. And then when it just kind of got delivered to the people that backed it, and I didn't really see it around anymore, that newest version. So yeah, that is definitely one I want to check out. And you're right, that I would probably be on my list, but I haven't played it. That sounds absolutely awesome.
It's right up your alley.
Yeah, it seems like it. Number 2 for me was a game of the week. 1 and 2 are both games of the week. This was all the way back in episode 17, and that's Forbidden Island, designed by Matt Leacock, published by Game Right. It's in a beautiful tin. 2 to 4 players, 30 minutes, ages 10 plus. We've played younger in our house because it's cooperative. Right, so the island is sinking, and you've got these brave adventurers, and you've got to get them off of the island. And I wouldn't suggest that you go back and listen at episode 17. Maybe at some point we'll get a refreshed review out. But Forbidden Island is one that, why it's number 2 on my list. This is a game that we have played with couples who are quote unquote non-gamers, or other family members who may not own a ton of board games. We've played with our own children. I've played with Doug quite a bit early on in our podcast. So just playing it in multiple groups, and just wonderful little coasters that come out of that tin with some cool little chunky pieces as well. I think Matt Leacock did a great job with Forbidden Island. So that's 2010. And my number 2 pick up and deliver game.
Awesome. Yeah, you're trying to collect cards and deliver those cards to the idle spots in order to claim the idol before you can get off the island. So
thanks for cleaning that up, Doug.
Great choice there. My number 2 is Istanbul. This came out in 2014. It's published by Pegasus Spiel and designer Rudiger Dorn. And this is a game, the first person to get 5 gems wins. But the unique part about this is that you need to go around the board, collect different resources. There's several different ways to get gems, whether you're just paying for them outright or turning in resources, or a combination of different resources. But so there certainly is the idea of go to a location, collect the resources, deliver those to a different location, get a gem type of thing. But there's also this mechanism of, you have your worker stacked on top of, 4 or 5 apprentice worker discs. And then as you move to different locations on the board, there are little cards out, tiles. Wherever you end, you drop one off. And that's what allows you to take the action of that space. And then you move on from there and you drop another one off. And eventually you run out of those assistants. You need to either come back and clean them up and pick them back up again so you can keep taking turns. And so it's not only does it have the normal traditional pick up and deliver that you would expect, it also has the secondary level of picking up and delivering your assistants or apprentices throughout the board and reacquiring them and putting them out in different spots in order to take actions. So that is my number 2, Istanbul.
That's awesome. Yeah, my number 1 has gone up over time. It's been a game that we have talked about, and I think it's gone up over time because I can actually teach this to new groups of people. And even though the game keeps getting new themes and mechanics put on it, I love the original, and that's Horrified, 2019, designed by Prospero Hall. And now I see Peter Lee has a designer credit added as well. Art by Prospero Hall, published by Ravensburger. Just give me the 2019 version. There's something about it. You don't have this in your one spot?
That's my one. So, yeah.
Oh, great. I think, then I won't talk for 5 minutes about it, but go ahead, jump in.
Well, I just think it does a great job of being pick up and deliver in an approachable, cooperative game. In the idea of you're collecting various, not only goods and weapons or objects. You're collecting objects that appear on the board, and then using them to defeat monsters. And each monster in the game has a different condition for how you beat it. But not only that, you're also picking up people in distress and then kind of shepherding them back to their safe space in order to get extra bonuses throughout the game. So it's got both of those in a cooperative game in an approachable way that just works.
And I had an experience too where I thought that I liked this game more than most. And so I kind of, hid my enthusiasm for it. Yeah, I think I just really like this game more than most. And then I saw kids play it at Board Game Club. And I saw one of my kids kind of really have a ton of fun screaming at the table and hollering, with their theater group. There's magic in this game. So it's not just me because I had a good time playing with my mother-in-law once, and we covered it on our podcast early in the show. Like, there's something about this game and the original game and the American Monsters that just really works for me, and I think it works for a lot of people.
The Universal Monsters, you mean?
Yeah. Good. Thanks for cleaning that up. The American Monsters once trash. The Horrified, the original.
Yeah, there's something to be said. They do keep releasing different versions. There's American Monsters and Mythic Monsters and a couple of other ones. I've played the American Monsters ones. I've read the rules on a couple of the other ones, and they just seem to add a level of complexity that seems unnecessary and kind of convoluted, where the original one is so well developed, which is why I always go back to that one.
And the monsters are great. Just mixing up a monster adds such a different vibe to the game.
Yep.
Yeah. This was a tough list, Doug. My 1, 2, and 3 when I started the list got bumped down to 6, 7, and 8. So I'm just going to briefly mention my three honorable mentions. Junk Orbit.
Yep. That was
designed by Daniel
well.
Solis. Okay. Yep. Awesome game that we haven't actually covered yet, have we?
No.
We've got to get that in the queue. Zaya Legends of a Drift System. Played it just in the last few months with in our game group, and I had a blast with it. But I just played it the once, and it's a hobby level game that I didn't think I could actually talk about for a minute. But very, very cool game there if you can get your hands on it. It's kind of a tough one to get, but sprawling game. You're playing all over a universe, and you're trying to get to places to deliver, but you might not actually be able to. So the stress of delivering is what brings the fun about it. And then the one that started out at number 1 for me, but just kept moving, is Wormholes, designed by Peter McPherson, Alderock Entertainment Group. I've owned this game twice, but just haven't been able to get it to the table. So I keep trading it away to other people, hoping that they can get it played. But pretty cool little system there where you can, there are these wormholes that bring you out to different parts of the I'll call it a map, but as the map is unfolding. Not a very good description there, but a game that I've had a lot of fun playing as well.
The only other honorable mention I had is a game called Lords of Zidit, which is...
I haven't played that one yet.
Is one where you're collecting different farmers and things to basically defeat monsters. What's really unique about that game, though, is the way that the end game scoring works, where there's 3 different tracks, and whoever's least behind, farthest behind on the track in the first one is eliminated from the game. Then you go to the second scoring one. Whoever's the least behind on that track is eliminated, and then you get down to the final one, and whoever is the highest wins that one. So you can be in like 3rd or 4th place in all of the other tracks as long as you're in first in the one that matters in the end, as long as you didn't get eliminated.
Interesting.
So I thought that was always kind of cool. So that is our high 5 pick up and deliver games. Let us know in the Discord or in the comments on the YouTube which games you like and which high 5 or which pick up and deliver games you'd put on the list. Just want to remind everybody again to subscribe to the podcast, follow us on X at GameSchoolerU, and subscribe and like our videos on YouTube. We would appreciate that. Next week, we're going to be talking about Rebirth, Harvest. We are going to get to the positive and negative aspects of hype, which we bumped this week for Andrew at the Op. And thank you, Andrew, for coming on and sharing all of those details. We appreciate that. And then we're going to be stealing from the Dice Tower because it is a great opportunity to talk about games that maybe we otherwise wouldn't. And we're going to be doing a high 5 as an alphabet series and doing the letter A. So that's what we got coming for you next week. Michael grimacing. But thank you so much for spending the last hour or so with us. We truly appreciate it.
Get out there and keep gaming.